Time for the mailbag here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN as we open that up each Tuesday. And before we get to the mailbag, Frank Klose is with us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Hello, Frank. How are you?
What's up, gentlemen?
We're doing well, pal. And let's quickly discuss Tommy Joseph because he's found a new home.
Yeah, the Rangers put on a waiver claim for him. Now, it looks like, as of right now, they don't plan to use him in the major leagues. Tommy Joseph did have one minor league option remaining, so it looks like they're going to send him to maybe even Double-A so that he can get some playing time. They actually have a prospect at Triple-A, so they might actually send him all the way to Double-A. But he might be a good fit for the Rangers because between Shin-Soo Choo, the left-handed designated hitter, and Joey Gallo, who will be the left-handed first baseman, maybe he can help complement them a little bit, perhaps down the line if he shows that he's doing okay and gets some at bats at Double-A or Triple-A, wherever they happen to find a place for him.
Well, let's throw open that proverbial leather satchel known as the mailbag. That would be what it would be in the old days, right? As we do this each Tuesday, and at Frank Klose is your Twitter handle, FrankKlose, Close with a K. Sid wants to know if the Phillies signed Alex Cobb, their rotation would be Arrieta, Nola, Cobb, Velasquez, and Eichhoff fifth when he comes back. They would be contenders in his mind for the wild card. Would that make them more appealing to free agents next year? Is there any chance?
Yeah, I think this is one where I think the Phillies did kick around the idea of signing a second starter, but I think the overwhelming reason why they're not going to go that route now is one, they still, even though they have a couple injuries, in fact, they just lost Mark Leiter for a month with a mild flexor strain. They're already down to Jared Eichhoff. They do have some depth. It might not, when you look at Ben Lively, who pitched well today, if you Zach Eflin, Nick Pivetta, they still have a bunch of depth and a bunch of guys that you don't necessarily want to lose out on. So you might give them the opportunities. But I think the big thing that would keep them from adding a Cobb is that the Phillies have already given up their second-round draft pick to sign Carlos Santana. They've given up their third-round draft pick to sign Jake Arrieta. And then if you're signing Alex Cobb as well, who was offered arbitration and declined it, but he's going to cost you your fourth-round pick now. That's a really long time in the upper levels of the draft to go without a pick. So given what they have, that might not make a lot of sense. And it's a shame for somebody like Cobb, who's been a pretty reliable pitcher. And I do agree with the question in that, yeah, he does make your rotation better, but poor Cobb. He declined that $17.4 million offer of 1 year, and he can't find a team now. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen with him. Maybe if he goes till June, where the draft pick compensation is not attached anymore, maybe the Phillies will take a flyer on somebody like Cobb if their own arms aren't working out. But I think just the way this situation sets up, the Phillies aren't in a good position to do so, and I did have the opportunity with a few other writers to talk to Klentak after the Jake Arrieta press conference, and Klentak said to us basically, like, look, I wouldn't rule it out because you never know what'll come down the pike. He said, but I'm pretty sure we're done making significant moves at this time.
Frank Klose is with us. The mailbag's open. We'll go pitching to pitching, Frank, as Jane wants to know, do you think that Jake Arrieta will be able to open the season with the Phillies?
Yeah, this is one that's going to be tough. If he's going to pitch his first game on Thursday, it looks like live game action. Right now, all he has under his belt is one simulated game. They actually had Phillies hitters standing at the plate instead of having Arrieta pitch in a minor league game like he was scheduled. So if he pitches on Thursday, the 22nd, the next time he could pitch on normal rest is Tuesday, the 27th, and that happens to be the very last spring game. So if Thursday goes well and he's able to throw 3 or 4 innings, he might try to throw 5 innings or 4 or 5 innings perhaps on the 27th for the last game. And if that's successful, then he might be able to slot in the rotation somewhere where he probably won't pitch the opening weekend in Atlanta, but maybe by the second series, which is in Flushing against the Mets, he might have that opportunity there to do that. But the unfortunate thing is he really hasn't thrown a lot, and if you're not confident that he can go 5 innings at least, you don't want to stick your hand up for disaster by making him throw too many innings. Now, one thing that they could do is what they did with Pedro Martinez back in 2009. So if you remember back then, Martinez signed in July, and he didn't have a spring training. So what the Phillies did was when he signed his contract, they immediately placed him on the disabled list. And if they put Arrieta on the disabled list, he can have some rehab starts perhaps in either, minor league spring training. Unfortunately for the Reading Fighting Phils, don't begin until the 3rd of April, and the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs don't begin until the 6th of April. So it's not like he can get a rehab start, quote unquote, like Martinez did, but he could stay in extended spring training for a little bit, pitch a little bit more. It's not ideal game action, but at least that would kind of relieve the burden of trying to have to start him right away. And thanks to a couple off days early, they could actually do without a fifth starter for a couple weeks. Yes. So if they want to make Arrieta the fifth starter in that slot, they could give him a couple more starts down in extended spring training. But a lot of it depends on how these starts go. So the Phillies aren't really saying yet. They're not committing to anything other than that he's going to get this start on Thursday, and we'll see.
Yeah, of course, they want to take a look at him on Thursday. Frank Klose with us. Phillies Mailbag is open. The schedule is friendly to him. They have the Easter day off on Monday, April the 2nd, when they are in New York, like you mentioned. And Chris is in the mailbag this week. He wants to know about Scott Kingery. Kingery played third base the other day, and he wants to know, Frank, do you think they play him there? Leave Hernandez at second and move on from Maikel Franco at third?
Yeah, the Kingery questions don't really go away. I think in Scott Kingery's case, nothing really has changed. The Phillies still, from other scouts, hear that they like Franco's abilities, raw abilities, and they really need to give him a chance to put it together at third base. And like some of the pitching, if you're the Phillies and you give up on Franco now and he ends up blossoming for some other team somewhere, that's not going to be a good feeling. So I think they're committed to making Franco show what he can do at the beginning of the season. I think they're committed to J.P. Crawford coming on. He's having a nice spring training hitting-wise. They're going to let him show what he can do at shortstop. And Cesar Hernandez certainly doesn't deserve to lose his spot at second base, with his high on-base numbers and good defense. So they're using Kingery all over the place. He even played some center field. And I don't think they're going to keep Kingery for any other reason other than there's perhaps a major injury, a major hole. And even if that's the case, they still might start him in the minor leagues. We keep talking about his service clock, and April 13th is the magical day where if he can stay in the minor leagues until April 13th, they're going to have a whole extra year of control. Whereas if you brought him up sooner, you would have 6 full years, including this one. After April 13th, you'll have this season and an additional 6 years. So really, they're in no hurry. And besides, you don't want to waste those other assets by not giving them the opportunity now. So the conversation might change if Franco's hitting 200 come June 1st or something like that. And of course, one thing John Middleton said to a few of us after the Arrieta press conference is that he had some names circled for next year's free agent market. So if Manny Machado is one of those names, and I would bet money he's one of those names that they've circled, which of course they won't tell us yet because that's tampering. But if I had to guess, they'll probably be talking to the likes of Machado, and if they're going to do something like that, there could be a whole different configuration next year. So it's still kind of early, but for now they want Kingery to have that experience in multiple positions. I think in the minor leagues he's going to have some experience in multiple positions, so that it gives them options for 2018 later on or in the future.
Frank Klose with us with the Phillies Mailbag. We do it each Tuesday at 3:30 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Our text message board number is 609-403-0973. And Frank, we got a question yesterday, Josh and I did, via the text message board that I'll serve up for you since you're our Phillies guy. It said, hey, Pete and Josh, wishful thinking, if the Phillies are in serious contention for the playoffs come trade deadline, and with the outfield being deep, who do you think they would trade away for a big bat or a pitcher?
A really, really good question. I think they will try to be aggressive at the trade deadline if the opportunity presents itself. I don't think, though, that 2018 they're going to really sell on a lot of their assets. A lot would have to do, too, is to how they're performing. We've seen it before where teams have tried to contend, but they remove one of their key pieces. If you remember back when the Oakland Athletics wanted to pick up John Lester, but it took them trading their number 4 hitter in their lineup, Cespedes. And that didn't go so well. So I think if that's functioning well, I don't know if they're going to want to disrupt that arrangement that they have in the outfield during the season. Might they do something next off season if it makes sense? Perhaps. It's really hard to project which one would come off the board. A lot of it would have to do with other teams' needs. I mean, I think Aaron Altherr as the right-handed hitter who can play center and right probably wouldn't be the guy, but there seems to be depth with the left-handed bats. But again, during the season might be hard to do that. They might try to pick up pieces at the deadline, but I think they would use some minor league assets at this point, namely those who aren't Scott Kingery and aren't Sixto Sanchez.
He's Frank Klose on Twitter at Frank Klose with a K, Klose. And before we let you go real quick, Frank, I guess this little nugget caught my eye yesterday that you tweeted out about that Cameron Rupp is now being made available to other teams. And a lot of that, the hint was when Knapp caught Arrieta's simulated game.
Yeah, it's funny that the person batting frequently was Jorge Alfaro as well. So he actually broke a couple of Alfaro's bats. So it seems like he's just kind of the odd man out in this situation. And really, if you're looking for who your backup catcher is going to be, Alfaro is going to be the starter. But Andrew Knapp is a switch hitter. He can get on base at a higher rate. While Rupp might be a serviceable catcher, Knapp gives you so much more. And I think for the Phillies, you're looking at either optioning Rupp to the minors or, since he's got a $2 million contract, if they actually cut him before the season is over, the preseason is over, they can only have to pay 25% of that and just pay him $500,000, and he's a free agent. So I could see the Phillies doing either of those possibilities, unless there's a team that could use them. I mean, I think Rupp's going to be a serviceable catcher for somebody. Lots of injuries in spring training. Rupp does have a minor league option remaining, so maybe a team who actually has a catcher and a backup they like and is worried about their health. Maybe they want to stash somebody like Rupp at AAA and they have the financial wherewithal to pay him $2 million. I think they're going to explore whatever possibility is out there in terms of Rupp. But it's just a shame because he's been a good guy for the organization the last few years, but he's just kind of the odd man out in this situation.
Not the odd man out with us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. That's Frank Klose. We talk to him each week at this time with the Phillies Mailbag. You can follow him on Twitter at Frank Klose with a K. And Phillies do win today in a shortened affair. 7 innings, they win 2-0 over the Blue Jays. Thanks so much, Frank. We'll catch up with you again real soon.
Thanks, guys.